Hello, and welcome to the Bluegrass Sports Show. Or,
We are the blue. We are
yeah,
the
we are.
we are the BS show. We are two fat guys and a
Skinny guy.
skinny guy who will be talking crap today. You and I, we just say no to metabolism.
I'm Carl.
And I'm Perry.
And I'm John.
We are.
This is John.
We're two fat guys that talk crap. He is a skinny guy that spews urine.
Okay. Perry's playing with a basketball over here during recording time here. And today we're coming at you with our top college teams of all time. Specific teams, not colleges. And anything you want to add, Perry? You ready?
These, while I'm assuming most of our selections will be championship winners, it's very possible.
Right.
Not always the greatest teams of all time would have won championships.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of Houston, you think of other teams that were just maybe together for 1 year. You know, in the one and done era, for example, maybe not won a championship. So it's just
Right.
I can't say that that directly goes with my list, but it's possible. Whenever we're talking greatest college basketball teams of all time, we're talking whenever you think of elite royalty in the college game, these are the teams you think of.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add, John?
Nope.
All right.
On my list are all champions.
All champions?
So
Yep, all champions.
mine is
Well, you're a
not.
champion to me.
Huh?
What?
Mine's not.
Oh, yeah, we forgot. You don't value championships.
I don't. But
Why else play the game?
I guess
Sure.
we're
Why else play?
once again, Perry just said that it doesn't mean the greatest team won the championship. Then he's like, you don't value championships.
I don't make the rules.
So I guess we're gonna jump right into this.
We'll let the newbie go
Yeah,
first.
no doubt.
My number 5, y'all probably going to disagree with me, will be the 2013 Louisville Cardinals. Wait. They didn't win the title, did they?
Yep. Wow. Well played. That team didn't win a title. He's right.
No, I'm just joking. But I'm going to go with 68 UCLA Bruins.
Okay.
I thought he was
Okay.
legit with that.
And-
I did too.
No.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm only putting them basically on this list, basically kind of like what you guys did with the 65 Celtics.
Not you guys.
Me.
Or you with the
Me,
65
yeah.
Celtics. You can't go without mentioning them. I mean,
But that team was incredible.
but my my
Not
thoughts
the
on
65
that
Celtics,
is
the Bruins.
the Bruins.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, but kind of they had Kareem, which
Exactly.
he was arguably the best college player ever. But kind of going back to what one of you all said about Wilt Chamberlain and the time that he played, I kind of put Kareem during that time period.
Yeah.
In college.
In
anyways.
college,
Yeah.
anyways. I mean, they weren't the competition
But
wasn't as stiff.
Fun fact too, they took out Kareem's dunks. That's when he developed his hook shot.
Yep.
They wouldn't let him dunk the ball.
Most unstoppable shot ever.
You want to go next? You want me to go next?
That's fine. I'll go. And my number 5 is the one that didn't win the championship, and that's the 82 Houston team.
Oh, I thought you were going with the Louisville Cardinals from 2013.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, you brought up this team and when you was talking about it before, but they've got Hakeem, Clyde to Glide, and the team that beat them had Michael Jordan. So they are extremely tough team.
We might talk more about that 82
Okay.
Carolina team in a minute.
Yeah,
And
probably.
And number 5, I also have the 68 UCLA Bruins.
Oh,
So me and him
very
thought,
nice.
me and him thought alike here. Just more so, whenever you match them up against our teams that's on our list, we would take our teams that's farther ahead of them against this team.
Right.
But the sole reason why you put them there is Kareem.
You can't discount a team based on when they played.
Understand?
So
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar
in their time frame, they were the greatest.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would still make that team compete today.
Yeah.
But I would still take the teams I have selected over that team.
If you put him in the 80s or the 90s against other guys that are as big and as talented as him, I think they win, but they're not as dominant.
Right.
Personally,
Right.
I don't think they win all 4 straight titles or 3 straight titles like they did with him in the 60s.
Let me also throw something else into that. Just it's a talking point to not really to belittle the John Wooden UCLA era,
Mhm.
but it is in a way. What other team from the West can you think of at that
Well,
point with
I
any
know what
type
you're
of
saying.
consistent competitiveness
I don't
on the national standpoint? At that time, the NCAA tournament selection was completely region based. They just had to go through essentially the smartest kids with Down syndrome. No offense, in the western half of the United States. And I don't mean to talk bad about any type of handicap or anything, but what I'm saying is that
Right.
they were so far and so subpar. I mean, the teams they played was so much subpar
Right.
compared to them, to where you had teams like Kentucky and Michigan State and Duke and North Carolina who have always been powerhouses on
Right.
the eastern half of the United States that would take each other out. UCLA didn't have to go through that.
They pretty much had to go through the
when
Western
you get to
Athletic
championships
Conference.
and stuff,
Yes.
they had to play them.
The-
Just maybe not the best of the best.
They
Maybe
had-
that team got defeated or something like that. But
It's like you have
it's like comparing like a Gonzaga or somebody to Kentucky, and they have to play. We have to play a lot tougher teams year long, to where this team don't look as good because they're going to lose more if they play tougher competition. I know what you're saying.
okay. Yep.
Um,
Does your sheet say Hannah Montana?
probably.
No, never mind. It doesn't. It says honorable mentions. I just saw it at a glance.
Wow, Hannah Montana for
Mhm.
honorable mentions. Anyway,
Oh, so I get to start this line, right?
I guess.
Number 4. This right here is where we're going with heartbreak. Elite 8, 1992. We're going with back-to-back champs. We're going with the 1990 through 1992 Duke Blue Devils. You can't make a top 5 list and be unbiased without having them on the list. You just can't
Right,
do it.
I don't have them on.
They
my
went
Me
to 3 straight title games.
list. Right.
They won 2 of those. Now, a lot of people sometimes say that part of Duke's dominance and rise to dominance in the late 80s, early 90s was during Kentucky's fall, and whenever they were put into probation.
Right.
It was a great strengthening point for Duke. Whichever, whatever, it still happened.
But
It
it still happened.
It still made college basketball the way it is today.
Right.
Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill.
I mean, they were tough. I can easily see them being inside.
Grant Hill.
I just don't have them in mind personal.
I think Grant Hill went to 3 Final Fours in 4 years.
Yeah. Go ahead, George.
I'm going to go with the 08-09 Carolina Tar Heels.
I don't have them.
Neither.
And you realize it was your turn.
No.
Well, fine.
He. What do you mean? He gave his number for you.
That was my number 4.
I know,
That was
but I
his number
meant.
4. It was your turn to go after me.
Well, we just going in reverse order.
That's the way we always go, ain't it?
I don't know. It's weird doing
Oh,
it
just
three,
go with
but
it.
anyway.
Just go with it.
This team I put on there because they came back with a vengeance after the 08 Final Four, which I giggled like a schoolgirl watching that. I'm not going to lie.
I watched that at Burger Boy
They were down 40-12. I was just beside myself laughing.
against Kansas.
Yep. They dominated the field. They had an average margin of victory in the tournament of 20.1 points per game, and their closest tournament game was a 12-point victory over a Blake Griffin Oklahoma team.
Mm.
So that's where I put
Yeah.
them at.
And at my number 4, I'm going the 82 Tar Heels. That beat Houston. With Jordan and all of them. I mean, just a extremely stout team. Was Worthy on that team too? He was, wasn't he? Yep.
I got to make a correction, sir. The 82 Tar Heels beat Georgetown, not Houston.
Are you sure about that? Was it 81?
NC State beat Houston.
Was it-
Majama.
Was it 81 that Tar Heels beat Houston?
82 Tar Heels beat Georgetown. 81 Indiana beat Carolina.
Was it 83 then? The Tar Heels eliminated Houston. Yes, they did. One of those years.
Maybe
Not the
in the
title.
Final
King
Four,
and-
but it wasn't in the title game.
Well, no, but I'm just saying they beat them.
Yeah, NC State beat them for the title.
But I'm going with the 82 Tar Heels. They are extremely stout. Or, is that not the one that won the championship? Maybe I'm
82
getting my
Tar,
ears.
82 Tar Heels
Okay.
won the title.
Making sure I
When
ain't
Jordan
getting
hit
my
his-
I think I was mistaken about that. I was thinking that they beat Houston, but he's right. It was Georgetown.
Yeah, I know they beat them one year.
Because the guy from Georgetown threw the pass
Right.
to North Carolina.
No, I knew
Michael
that
Jordan.
one.
Yeah, no, it was to.
From
Are you positive? Because I'm almost sure it was Michael Jordan.
He may have threw it to Worthy. He threw the pass. Thought he was passing to his teammate, and he threw it to the Carolina player.
We'll have to go back and watch it. I
Yep.
thought that was Jordan.
I'm
Jordan
not sure
hit
which
the
one
shot,
it was.
but-
I think whoever he threw it to passed it to Jordan. So it's probably
You were
Worthy.
barely on the screen, huh?
He's scooting me out and then he's fussing when I'm out of the screen. Boys, I'm telling you what. Anyway.
I demand perfection.
So, yeah. All right, so that is my team. So I guess we're on to my number 3.
Let's go back to his
Okay.
number 4. He's talking about the 09
Yeah.
Tar Heels.
09.
If I'm not mistaken, did they break the 96 Cats margin of victory record?
They may, as far as overall point difference, they may have, but as far as points per game, margin of victory, they didn't. I
Okay.
looked the numbers up.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Somebody out there may have
Well,
better numbers than I, but
one of the teams on my list won by an average bigger than that.
20.1.
Okay.
Mine too.
So at my number 3, this is where I've got the Kareem-led Bruins. Is at my number 3. So we've talked about them enough, so we can move on to your all.
Go ahead.
My number 3 is the 07 Gators.
Okay.
They're the only
The
team.
NBA team. Yeah.
Yeah, the only team that won back-to-back titles with the same starters. They had deadly three-point shooters. Horford
one
and Noah
point-
were great passers.
At one point, every player in that starting lineup started for an NBA team.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah,
That's how great
they
they
all.
were.
If I'm not mistaken, they all averaged double figures.
Was
Yeah.
Gail Goodrich on that team? Oh.
Huh?
Was Gail Good? Wait a minute.
Gators.
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 Sorry. Sorry. I was thinking back to the UCLA team.
They,
Gail Goodrich on that team?
as far as dominant wise, I think the 06 team was better, but I put them above the 06 team because they came back and they
Right.
were expected to win it, and
And
they
they
still
still,
came
yeah.
back and they went through.
And that's, I honestly think that's the only reason that Billy Donovan even got his name.
Oh yeah, he was mediocre before, and you see
Still-
what he done after that
still,
team
yeah,
left.
yes.
He had one other Final Four team.
He's
after
a
that,
great
so.
recruiter, too, is what kills me. But then he just don't do good with them.
My number 3, I'm going with the original All-American team from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm going with the 89 through 91 UNLV running reps.
Stacked team.
Yep.
Grandmama Larry Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, who's still mad we talked about him getting shoved by Reggie Miller. He's still mad about it.
Oh, isn't
Tark the Shark chewing on a towel.
Tark the shark chewing on a towel. You're exactly right. That team goes into the Final Four undefeated. Now, granted, is a mid-major team. They were the
They were
most
still-
mid-major in the history of mid-majors.
Right.
They were stacked and loaded.
They were tough.
Into the Final Four undefeated, get upset by Duke a year after they destroyed Duke.
I mean, as far as just the amount of talent on that team, that was a power conference team those years.
Grandmama, he was maybe one of the last undersized power forwards to come into the league. Okay, he wasn't but like 6'7" or 6'8". He was small,
Yeah,
but he could rise, man.
there's some more in the league now, I think, undersized. But
I mean, that's simply because the game has moved to where small forwards play the 4 now, just to stretch
Right.
the floor. He was a power forward. He played like a power forward, but he was just in a smaller body. He's one of
but
the
you got
last.
someone like Paul Millsap and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's.
And he can shoot.
But it's a rarity. Back then,
Right, yeah.
then it was normal.
Right,
I mean, it was normal. He was one of the last guys that come into the league with that size.
right.
And he got to the league paired on a team with Alonzo Mourning, and they hated each other. So and they couldn't stop fighting, so the Hornets traded them both.
Right.
So you can't get along. We don't want either one of you. Them and Muggsy. Dale
Little
Curry.
Muggsy Bogues.
Dale Curry.
So what are we on to now?
We are on
Number 2.
Your number 2?
My number 2. This is where I want to slap you for disrespecting Michael Jordan and James Worthy.
For putting them that
The
low.
second
Okay.
greatest college basketball team of all time is the 82 Tar Heels.
All right.
If Ric Flair was here,
Woo!
you would not have testicles. He would rip them off and shove them down your throat
Now,
and then strut and get naked
Any-
here in this room.
except for the Houston team, because they wouldn't move up. If anything, they're moving down. After hearing some of your alls. But any of my 3 in the middle, my number 1 stay in the same period.
Matt Doherty was on that team, right?
The 3 in the
82.
middle could switch out.
It was stacked. It had all stars.
It
It had
was tough.
James Worthy, Jordan,
Sam Perkins.
Sam
Yeah.
Perkins.
I mean,
they
it
were
was
just
unbelievable.
loaded. Jordan was a freshman on that team.
The Dean Dome, Ric Flair did a promo in WCW in like 95 or 96 to where he very into Dean Dome. And he just get down and strutting and talking to Hulk Hogan and saying, you're in a building that was built by Michael Jordan and built by James Worthy. He's talking about the 82 Tar Heels.
Yeah,
That team right there,
I get what
that's
you're
a
saying.
team that with Dean Smith's 4-corner offense, that team didn't run a 4-quarter offense.
And without Dean Smith as the coach of that team, Michael Jordan don't get picked 3rd. I don't see that. Because if Dean Smith was the
Are
type.
you saying he'd be higher?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, I'm saying he kind of held him down.
No, we may never hold Jordan under 20 a game. Dean Smith.
He kind of held him down. If he would have let Jordan fly, then he'd have been
Jordan still
number
flew.
one.
Jordan averaged like 16 a game.
Yeah, but I mean,
He
it
was
would have been a lot higher.
He was a freshman on that 82.
It don't matter. Don't matter. He'd have been higher.
Okay.
That was an era when freshmen didn't play a lot either.
Exactly.
You had to be really good for a freshman to play.
Exactly.
And he did.
Freshmen hadn't been allowed to play for long.
And then
It was in the late 70s, or maybe late 70s, early 80s before they ever started letting freshmen play.
Right.
Used to, they would play sophomore through senior season.
Mhm.
The freshman teams, they were JV.
right.
Going
Freshman
back to
players.
your Kareem teams, that was a time when Kareem could only play 3 years.
Right.
His freshman year, the freshmen played the varsity, and the freshmen dominated the varsity team.
Right.
The saying was that they were the best team in the country, but second best on campus.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So
I
you're.
like the fun fact.
Is it my number 2 or his? What order?
My father used to say something similar about that, about the 78 Kentucky team.
Mm-hmm.
he said- He said the number 1 team in the country was the starters, and this number 2 team in the country was the first 5 off the bench.
Mhm.
That's what he'd say about the 78 Kentucky team.
So
My number,
my number 2 or his number 2?
His number 2.
my
Okay.
number 2, I'm going with the 01 Duke Blue Devils.
Ooh. Okay.
I remember watching this team. They were just dominant. 3 of their 4 losses were by 2 points or less.
A lot of people think their team the next year was better.
I do. I could agree with that. But they got beaten in Sweet 16. That's the only thing that holds them back.
In Rupp Arena.
In Rupp Arena by
By
Indiana. They won every tournament game by at least 10 points. I mean, they had Shane Battier, Jason Williams, a
Right.
good Jason Williams before he got
Carlos Boozer.
hurt, Carlos Boozer, Mike Dunleavy. I mean, they swept all major player of the year
Yeah, here's-
awards. Just
Another team just stacked with talent.
yeah, I mean, they were dominant.
Shane
Yeah.
Battier was National Defensive Player of the Year.
So here with my number 2 is the one that y'all are absolutely going to hate, and it's the 72 Bruins with Walton at center. And this team won by an average of 32 points
Not the tournament.
the whole season.
The whole
You
season.
took every win
the whole
and their
season,
point of
yes.
margin.
The
of
whole
victory.
season, yes, whenever they're playing junior college teams on the West Coast.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what we're counting here. When earlier was the whole
understand.
season. That's what I meant. This team is won by an average of 32 points a
I
game.
understand. And that's the team that held the longest winning streak in college basketball
Right.
history, correct?
And I know that you hate Bill Walton.
I don't
but he
hate
was-
Bill Walton. I just think Bill Walton's Bill Walton. I remember 1984, 85 Boston Celtics. Actually, it's 86. I'm sorry, but anyway,
But he was tough. I mean, he wasn't Kareem tough, obviously, but before the injuries, he was a monster.
It
And
wasn't
the
just
injuries
it
was-
wasn't just injuries that hindered him. It was drugs. He was a burnout hippie in the early 1980s. Whenever
He
hippies
was a hippie in college.
Yeah.
Yes.
Him and Wooden clashed because
exactly.
the counterculture.
Bill Walton, and he's the same person that whenever the Fab Five had rose to prominence, that would be on national television, and him a burnout hippie talking about how the Fab Five is terrible for the game because they listened to hip hop music and they wore their shorts a little bit longer and wore black socks.
Yeah.
I don't like Bill Walton. Bill Walton's a joke.
I mean,
Not a fan.
A
I ain't
joke.
talking about him as a person, but him as
He's
a
a
ball
joke
player.
as a player too.
No, he was
A
tough.
joke as a player. He wishes he could wear red hair like I did.
Shoot.
Hence the fact I said did.
So, like I said, though, I could easily see, especially with your arguments of time frame, that you could move them 2 down. But I'm giving the nod historically to them. So, number 1.
I'm assuming we all have the same team.
I'm hoping so.
Who you got?
Tyler.
It's his turn.
My turn.
So,
It's his
mine is the 96 Wildcats.
That's what you got?
That's what I've got. I've got all the numbers that will speak for themselves.
That's got it.
You don't
I've
need
got
no
it as well.
numbers.
You got 9 pros on that
9
list.
pros. Yep, on
You
that
got
team.
the all-time record for margin of victory in the tournament on that
At
list.
21.5 points per game.
You've got 34-2 on that list.
They had a 27-game win
They're
streak.
tough.
You've got the only 2 teams that beat them that season were also in the Final Four on that
Mississippi
list.
State and
UMass.
UMass. They dominated the greatest power forward of all time in
Tim
the Elite
Duncan
Eight. If I'm not
Destroyed
mistaken,
Wake Forest.
they held him to 14 points on. It was either 2 for 7 shooting or 2 for 9. Most of his points came from the free throw line.
And this was after Tim Duncan made a interview after their previous game. Well, they've been beat before; they can be beat again.
They averaged 91.4 points per game. They scored 100 points or more 9 times, 90 points, at least 90 points 16 times,
And 84 points and a half once.
86 points and a half.
I was trying to give credit to LSU's defense.
They scored 80 points or more in 30 games. 30 of their 36 games, they scored 80 points
Yeah,
at
that
least.
team was fantastic.
What sets that team apart, and I'm going to go into some rules here as
Okay.
far as rule changes. If you put that team in today's era, it may not be as tough defensively
Right.
because of rule changes. That was Rick Pitino's greatest team, and Rick Pitino's greatest coaching style is just the slap.
Right.
It's just hounding ball handlers and putting pressure. The difference is so many teams from that era that were great defensive teams that people would say, well, they could do this, they could do that. They couldn't do that in today's era
Right.
because they couldn't score enough.
Mhm.
This team could.
Oh, God, yeah.
This team could play in any era in the history of college basketball.
And-
Against Kareem, you're putting Walter McCarty and Antoine Walker doubling him and challenging the rest of the team to
Right.
beat you.
Mhm.
I'm taking that team,
Mhm.
95,
Over
96
any of
Cats.
them.
Anthony Epps, Tony Delk, Derek Anderson, Walter McCarty, Antoine Walker, Jeff Shepard, Mark Pope,
Wayne
Allen
Turner.
Anderson, Wayne Turner, a Nazi Muhammad that barely
Nazi
played,
Muhammad.
He was on Weight Watchers that season.
a Scott Padgett that was
I
redshirted
didn't know
and
that
didn't
he
even
was on.
play.
Cameron Mills.
Cameron Mills. Scott Padgett didn't even play on that team, and he buried Duke in '98.
Right.
Jared
Another
Prickett
pro.
was hurt that year, wasn't he?
Jared Prickett was.
Or he got hurt early in the season.
Yes. Jared Prickett was more of a mainstay on the '97 team.
But that team was amazing.
Mhm.
But if we're being honest, if they don't lose Derek Anderson in '97, they win the championship.
They should have won it without
So
him.
I know, but if they don't lose him,
Freaking
They made it, they
Nazi
made it that
Muhammad.
far without him.
yeah.
You should win it.
But you take 96 through 98, and you've got one of the best, most fantastic stretches. Of,
Well, I mean, you have not the complete core of '96 and again
No, but
playing
you've
for a
got
title
places
in '98,
or
but you still
people
got
off of that
pieces.
team, yeah.
You've got Nazi and you've got Wayne Turner and Scott Padgett,
Yes.
Jeff Shepard. You've got all these guys, Allen Edwards on the '98 team.
Right.
And then on the '97 team, all you're missing is Delk, McCarty, and Pope.
Right.
You got
Walker.
this and Walker. Sorry,
Walker, yeah, they
yes.
all went together.
You've got everybody else back for that team,
Hmm.
and that's a team that beat you by 40 or lost by 20.
And that's what I'm saying. That stretch of teams right there is one of the most dominant stretches
Yes.
ever.
There's teams that I would have loved to have put on this list from today's era. The 2012 Cats.
They're
Right.
my honorable mention.
I would have given so much consideration to them. I don't know how that team, in the past 15 years, I'm going back to Melo. Melo, really the first prominent one and done player of the modern era.
Mm.
So I'm going back to Melo 15 years ago. In that era, the 2012 team is the best team of all time of that era.
Right.
But I don't know how that team plays versus teams that we've listed
Right.
because in that era you had guys like the Kentucky team we're talking about. You've got the best players on that team was 2 seniors and 2 sophomores and a freshman.
Right.
It's a lot of team building.
Hmm.
Anthony Epps was a junior on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
They had played together, and actually the 95 team was really dominant. They just had a stinker in the Elite Eight against Carolina. They couldn't hit anything.
Yep.
If you look at the tournament games prior to that Elite Eight game, they obliterated people.
Yes.
Wasn't even close.
Right.
They just couldn't find the
Yeah, that
basket.
was one
They
of
just
the-
couldn't make shots against
That was
Carolina.
one of the greatest stretches
the
ever.
going from the Unforgettables in '92 up through losing to Michigan State in '99 in the Elite Eight.
I cried during that game. I ain't gonna lie.
I did too. But that, if you take away Wooden's run with
Right.
UCLA,
Mhm.
or since that run, in the 3-point era of college basketball, that is the most dominant era by
Right.
an individual team, and that's accounting Duke going to X amount of Final Fours in X amount of years.
Right.
Those Duke teams wasn't near as good as those Kentucky
No.
teams. Now the later Duke teams, they could play with them.
They
beat 'em.
could play
I
with
think
them.
in
They
a
would beat 'em.
10-game series, I think Kentucky, the 96 team would beat them 8 times out of 10
I do too.
because everybody's due a bad game. I think they could beat them maybe twice.
John Calipari has said about the 96 team, and he coached against that team twice. He said that team could have played any way they wanted to play. They could be a post-up team. They could have been a shooting team.
Well,
They could have been a drive and kick team.
I mean,
Just it was
they
lethal.
were fantastic.
Pick your poison.
Back to what he was saying about the scoring of that team. They did that while being the best defensive team of all time.
Right.
They would press you and force turnovers and get easy runouts.
Mhm.
I mean, it was.
And in a half-court game, they would still score 75.
Oh yeah.
Now, I do challenge you, the viewers, if you don't know this team, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch clips, watch games. This team was fantastic.
The picture of dominance.
Mhm.
And the shimmy.
Yep.
The dunk on Louisville by Derek Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as
Tony
for our
Delks
list,
and won 3 in the title game, sliding into the bench.
guess we're not done yet.
You're making me want to watch.
Back-to-back 120-point games in the regular season.
Merciless.
Yep.
And Rick Pitino looking young and snazzy.
We good to finish this up, or you guys will keep going? Or?
You do as you will.
All right. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. If you liked our list, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have anything to add, do it in the comments. Leave us videos that you want to see.
He picked a winner.
The animal has nothing to.
I was watching his trajectory of excellent booger sensing.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.